going to show you some tips for measuring out for your pattern and sort of planning out your pattern. So a couple ways that you can do this, or you could plan it ahead of time on paper, sort of map out the size of your stamp in the pattern, or you can do it right on the stamp. Either way. Pencil, once you draw on this pink rubber, and I'm using the Speedball Speedy Carve, will not come off. Which is really nice for drawing patterns because you can kind of keep working on here and it's not going to smudge off. So for the sake of this, I'm going to work right on this square, and I use a lot of 1-inch blocks so that I can combine them with each other. So that's what I'm using for this demonstration. And sometimes I don't know what pattern I'm going to do, and sometimes I do, so I might just make myself guiding lines to work from. In this case, I know that I want to make this circle, so I'm going to map out the halfway distances of each side so that I can get a point in the center. Oh, I guess I don't need to do that. So I'm just going to put a little mark at halfway. Yeah, you could create more of a grid on here if you just want to be able to work, sort of make a design right on the stamp. I just want to see where the center is. And just like I've done here, I use my compass to make a circle. I'm going to do that here, and I've tested this out a few times, but this little point from my compass, if I put it in the middle, it's not actually going to impact my stamp. So it will make a tiny hole, but it will be imperceptible on your pattern. So I just kind of loosey-goosey choosing a size circle that I would like. And then I'm going to go ahead and just pierce that rubber. And I'm going to move my stamp and leave my compass in place. So that gives me a nice circle to work from. I'm going to go ahead and draw the diagonals too, just so I have some more structure to work with. Okay. Right now I'm using, this is FlexCut carving tools. This is from the micro set, so I got a real tiny little V here. I'm going to go ahead and carve out that outline of that circle. And you might plan out the whole thing here. Just the way I work is more that I will kind of make a base shape to go from and then respond directly on the stamp as I'm working as far as what I want the rest of my pattern to be. But you might plan out the whole thing in advance. Make some lines out here from this, just starting right in the middle of that cut and then carving out towards the center. And so depending on how you're working, as I mentioned, if you have the whole thing planned out, you can stamp it. Something I like to do because I'm planning it as I'm going is once I carve a little bit of the stamp, I'm going to stamp it and just see how I like what I have and how it's lining up. So just by doing this, I already start to get a sense of how is this going to repeat, and then that can help me generate new ideas for things I might like to add into the carving. So that's one reason why I sort of like to work that way, is because it can be hard to see how each piece is going to repeat until you can see them come together. So I'm just going to clear off my extra ink here so that I can continue to carve. Something I'm looking and thinking about as I look back on this is sort of this shape here that's coming between these two circles. I just like that shape, and I want to kind of think about that. I think I'm going to make some vertical stripes in between there. And so what I'll often do is just come in here and draw with a pencil to sort of get a sense of, do I like that design, and then go work it on here. Because this is the bottom of one stamp and the top of this one, I will need to map out and kind of measure the distance so those lines line up. So I'm just going to come back to that same side. I don't know why that ruler is intense. And I'm going to mark my 1/8 of an inch. And I did it on this bottom, so I'm going to do it on the other side too. And then depending on how precise you want to be, you can always come back and then really connect these lines on your stamp. Again, draw on that with pencil. The only place they need to meet up is exactly this spot where I've marked, so I'm not going to worry too much about really drawing and following the full lines. I'm just going to use these marks as my guide. And I'm going to start from the lines that are already carved out and just carve straight down. Make sure there's no extra pieces sticking in there. And there you can see I've got those lines added. I'm turning it this way so that I can sort of see where these marks are. But another thing you can do that's helpful so that you're not trying to just see where the cuts are is to mark up along the side where those lines are, or you can even measure, the 1/8 of an inch along the top here. Or, measure your distance along the top here so that you have a reference as you're looking down. So marking on the side or on the top of the stamp is a good way to help you sort of line up. But yeah, that's some basic tips for measuring on your stamp, making patterns, and kind of just using the process of continually checking on your stamp, returning. Feel free to draw in your sketchbook as a way to generate some more ideas.